Chapter 336 is not appropriate for a YouTube video. If you want to, please check the description for original post on Reddit. This is Chapter 337, Antlers, Assumptions, and Artillery. Waking up with a beautiful woman in your arms is a good feeling. Waking up surrounded by 5 sounds like a parody. Waking up to 5 subconscious cuddlers all holding tight, one with 2 pairs of arms and another with arms made of molded steel, is awkward. It takes a minute, but none of the girls have the energy to really get up, which is a problem as he needs to use the can. He looks back at the bed and grins. 5 gorgeous women, all satisfied and worn down. Alien or not, they're stacked and packed in ways that no human woman is. Or perhaps not. He had heard rumors of a girl that had been changed to match the locals. He shakes the excess thoughts out of his mind and quickly relieves himself before heading for the shower. The girls hadn't had much energy by the time they were done, so everyone had sleep smelling of sex. Which is okay if you're exhausted, but a bit much when you wake up. 10 minutes later, he emerges scrubbed clean and grinning as he pulls up his pants and finds the girls have gotten up. "Where does his energy come from?" Lils asks in shock. He shrugs. "It just does. Morning, ladies, any requests on breakfast while you're all getting up?" "Keep it simple. That oatmeal stuff and sugar tar," Holly says, as she walks past the others and into the bathroom. "All right, I'll get it bubbling." Bjorn agrees and then offers the girls a nod before he heads for the kitchen. The morning boils on slow and comfortable. The girls aren't in the kind of obscene shape that Holly is, which lets her bounce back from everything, and Bjorn's just built to last. So, how does this work? What are the social dynamics of this kind of situation? Bjorn asks as everyone eats. He pulled out a few extra fruit to be placed on the table, and he has a half-eaten Alyor fruit, an off-taste apple with external seeds in a pod around the stem, in his hand. That depends if we're doing this again. If this is a one-time thing, it's a sampler that was refused. If we come back, it's a serious thing, Vera says as she takes a drink of a popular fruit juice. It tasted watered down and bland to Bjorn, but Holly liked it, so it was in the fridge. There's a sort of 3-date rule. Some girls jump in fast and declare things before their first time bouncing the bed, but unless there's an oath dance, we're still just testing the waters. "I've heard of the oath dance a few times, not very much though," Bjorn remarks, and there's some snorting. "A lot of girls skip that kind of thing. It's old-fashioned and formal. It's usually a sign that someone really wants to lock a guy down without there being any questions," Vera says before giggling a little. "Although, if you want things nice and formal, we could argue that the time at the club was an oath dance. Sure, it was a little public, but it was a big dance all to seduce and appreciate you." "All right, but saying it was an oath dance and we've all locked it in with last night's fun, where do we go from here? What do we do next?" he asks, and there's a lot of grinning. "I'm going to assume from those grins that you've got an idea. I'm first wife. That's the condition, and beyond that, it's up to them," Holly says with a grin before she pointedly has another mouthful of oatmeal in order to let everyone else talk. "I'm in. Big, strong man who'll fight a Horchka hand-to-hand and keep an entire room on their toes at the same time. Sure, you need to work on your dancing a bit, but the perfect man doesn't exist," Lils asks, and Salis nods. "Oh, I'm in as well. You can't give a girl that much dick that hard and not expect her to keep coming for more," Irma says, and Vera giggles. "A full sweep then, big man. We'll figure out the details, but last night is just the first of many," Vera says, toasting him with a glass even as she rests her chin on her lower sets of hands and has her final hand on her hip. "All right, wow. We're gonna have to go over the security so you girls know how to get past the guards without escort." "Yeah, I noticed this place is in the middle of a military compound," Lils notes. "He's an undaunted, a full-on military boy," Irma replies, stretching a little. "Big bad boys who came out of cruel space. Best of the best for the species, huh? They came out looking for a fight and kept getting propositioned instead. That is a good summary of our reaction to the galaxy at large. We expected anything from a brutal, long-standing war to eldritch abominations to try and rip apart the ship to eat us to just about anything else. Galaxy of Thirst was not on the list of things we expected. To be fair, look at yourself, big man. What woman wouldn't thirst for muscles on the muscles coupled with skill? Salas says, blowing him a kiss. Right. Well, we do need to get going. We're a thing now? Okay. But we do have a day to get to, Bjorn remarks before glancing at his communicator. You in particular have an appointment in an hour deeper in the base. It's expected to take another 2. He had made a point of not saying that it was an appointment with the psychologist. Every military outpost had at least one head shrinker to help out the soldiers and anyone that was rescued. The one here was really earning their paycheck in that they had to deal with all 5 of the persona-nailed women. Holly was just one obscenely dangerous civilian in need of both protection and a gentle touch. After things had gone on well with Holly to the point where she had confessed to feeling safer and more at ease off Centris, the other girls had been moved on world and were flourishing. Some of them were already off protection detail and had joined the Undaunted. But Holly was likely the last one to be taken off as she was the youngest one, chronologically and developmentally, to be hit with a persona nail by Swipe. There's a bit of entertainment as the girls have to redress in their clubbing outfits and head home as Holly heads for her time with the doctor. This leaves Bjorn with an hour or so to himself, and he knows what he's going to do with it. All right, so we've got ourselves a main cannon with variable payloads. 2 mounts for either plasma or laser cannons that can be switched out on a whim. That's good for vehicle-to-vehicle combat and is a solid answer to assholes in power armor. 3-inch thick plating that's a mix of titanium and tri-tite for both serious resistance to physical damage and to force most Axiom bullshit to flow right off. Bjorn notes as he climbs onto the prototype tanks. Yeah, we're sticking to something that's easy to make in large quantities, easy to fix, and easy to learn. When it comes to the big, complicated heavy hitters, spaceships are the go-to. But tanks still have a place on the battlefield and are one of those techs that most of the galaxy skipped. Granted, they skipped from trench warfare to hovercraft, but the point stands. Mobile hard points that hit back even harder. That's generally a large spaceship, not a series of tanks. One of the mechanics explains even as Bjorn surveys the gear. He's more of a foot soldier, so he'll be delivered in APCs and not driving a tank. But knowing what his armored support can do is important. That's a powerful psychological gap we can use. Granted, it won't work forever, but it is easily enough to get a foot in the door. Bjorn notes as he looks over several of the shells: incendiary, solid slug, cluster, high explosive, and what looks like depleted uranium for armor penetration. That's the idea. No advantage lasts forever. No matter how good your military strategies, you can't always win, and it's almost impossible to kill every part of a large force. But if any of them survive, they take at least some of your secrets back with them. Not to mention with eggheads being a lot more common than they'd like to be. You have to assume everyone has someone smart enough to figure out your toys in their corner. You need to deliberately black box stuff to keep it protected in any way. Bjorn adds in, and the mechanic nods in confirmation. True enough. We have a few friends going around the black markets around Zal War, and there are already imitation guns flowing around. Some of them are pretty good too. A few more months, maybe a year at most, and we'll have guns just as good as ours flowing around, the mechanic says, and Bjorn sighs. It is inevitable, isn't it? Damn. Bjorn notes before grinning. They'll probably come out with another part for the armor brand by then. Maybe something to mimic the wreath along the lower half or whatever the hell it's called. Actually, that reminds me, the mechanic says, tapping at his shoulder. Can I see it? I've been wondering about getting the brands or tats, especially as certain ones are coming out of prototyping. Do you recommend them? Only if you're unafraid of pain. Bjorn suggests hucking off his jacket and tossing it onto the tank before rolling up the sleeve on his t-shirt. They work like a dream, but god fucking damn does it hurt to be branded body and soul. Body and soul? It's the best way I can describe it. I suggest reminding yourself that it's a good pain when it happens, but you will scream. And possibly shit yourself too. It hurts that much. Dear Lord. On the upside, I'm laser and plasma proof. My lungs were always filled with pure and breathable air, and I'm always at a comfortable temperature. I could literally do that thing where you fill your own cheeks and breathe your breath back in to keep myself breathing even underwater. We determined that it might be dangerous in a vacuum and then modified it. I instead now have a thin force field projected around my body. Very thin though, so it won't keep my clothes dry. It also disperses a lot of electrical damage and has a defensive barrier around my ears so nothing's blowing out the drums. A lot? You're not immune? We tested these brands with rats, and while the markings scale very well, they're not infallible. I can't stick my head in front of a starship laser and laugh. I'll lose my head after the brand overloads and blows. So the arm goes too. Yay. The eggheads worked out a feedback and concealment system, which is what the 3 bands to either side are, that give this puppy a lot of consistent power without tripping sensors. The downside is that if too much power is thrown into the mix, boom. The mechanic finishes as he stares at the marking. It's interesting stuff though, that's for sure. And if you're in front of a capital grade laser or plasma cannon, then power armor won't save your ass, let alone a brand. Right. This is the 4th iteration. The first one was good, but had problems. Mostly going pop in any vacuum, and it stood out like a flare. We figured out that with a touch of null, you could wipe these clean, followed by some axiom-assisted healing to blank the canvas, so to speak. I've been on the human testing from scratch, and it's been pretty good. But you still scream when they put one on. It burns you to the soul, yes, Bjorn retorts as he pushes down the sleeve and then grabs his jacket. I'm beginning to think you're a bit of a masochist. Hey, we all got through the training in our own ways. Don't knock mine. Bjorn counters and the mechanic throws his head back and laughs. Oh, good grief, man. Hey, wait. Where's my manners? I'm Engineer Second Class Levi Falkenstein. He says, holding out his hand, and Bjorn takes it for a hearty shake. Sergeant First Class, Bjorn Veers. Currently on bodyguard details, but my VIP is safe behind our lines and with our base's main head shrinker, so I got some me time. Good to hear. The local ladies are amazing to be around, but a man needs to be able to relax now and again. Sounds like experience talking. Bjorn notes and Levi nods. A drin. You wouldn't expect a giant ant to be sexy or appealing, but damn if they haven't pulled it off. I don't know, dude. I tend to stick to mammals. Bjorn replies and Levi shrugs. Oh, they got enough mammal on them to make it work, believe me. Levi says with a big grin. Maybe, but I'd be nervous about letting a woman with mandibles give me a blowjob. Coward. Levi jokes and Bjorn takes a offhand backhand at him that, even if it wasn't responded with an over-the-top dodge, would still have missed. Anyways, you got any of the tattoos? I was thinking of getting the wall crawler set up. So you can Spider-Man things? Yeah, not to mention not needing ladders anymore will be a blessing. I got the D-bars, Bjorn admits and chuckles evilly as Levi stares at him. The square bands around the lower thigh that give you power over your own dick? Levi asks. Yes. Why? Mostly the memes at first, but I fucked 5 women damn near into a coma last night and it sure as hell helped. Not to mention it was on fast and painless half an hour and I barely felt it. That is something to think about. I've got some thinking to do. Levi notes and Bjorn chuckles again. Do it for the ladies, he says, and Levi snorts in amusement.